Good morning, children. In today's class, we are going to continue the History Unit 1 lesson. Today, we are going to study about the minor chieftains, Ay, Velir and Kilar. Apart from the three great kings, who are they? The Cheras, the Cholas and the Pandyas. There were several brave independent minor chieftains. The name Ay is derived from the ancient Tamil word Ayar. Ayar means shepherds. Among the Ay chiefs of Sangam age, Andhiran, Tittiran and Nannan were the important names. The famous Velis were the seven patrons. Who are they? They were called Kadayelu Vallalgal. In 5th standard, you would have studied about them. Who are they? They were Pari, Kari, Ori, Pagan, Ay, Adiyaman and Nalli. They were popular for their generous patronage of Tamil poets. They were supporting the Tamil poets so that they become very popular. How was the village chief was called? He was called in the name of Kilar. Now let us study about the Sangam polity, kingship. The kingship was hereditary. It means the king will rule, thereafter his son will come to the power, after that his son will come to the power. The king was called Ko. Vendan, Kon, Mannan, Kotravan and Iraivan are all the other titles given to the king. The eldest son of the king generally succeeded to the throne. The coronation ceremony was known as Arasu Kattilerudal, otherwise it is called Mudisootu Vizha. Coronation means crowning ceremony. The crown prince was called Komagan, while the young ones were called Ilango, Ilanjeliyan and Ilanjeral. The king held a daily darbar that is called Nalavai, at which he heard and resolved all the disputes, that means the problems. Tax was the income for the kingdom. The income to the state was through the taxation. Land tax was the main source of revenue and it was called Irai. Apart from this tax, the state collected tolls and customs, that is Sungam, tributes and fines. A wound in the back was considered a disgrace and there are instances of kings fasting unto death because they had suffered such a wound in the battle. In the war, suppose if the king got wound at his back, they feel it is bad name for them. So the king will be in fasting until his death. The court. The king's court was called Arasavai. The king occupied a ceremonious throne in the court called Ariyanai. The king was assisted by a number of officials. They were divided into Aimberungulu, that is 5-member committee, and Enberayam, that is 8-member group. Army. The king's army consisted of 4 divisions, namely infantry, cavalry, elephants and chariot force. The army was known as Padai. How was the army was called? Padai. The chief of the army was known as Thanai Talaivan. How he was called? Thanai Talaivan. They used the weapons, namely sword, kedayam, that is shield, tomaram, that is lance, spears, bows and arrows. Law and justice. The king was the final authority of appeal. In the capital town, the court of justice was called Avai, whereas in the villages, Mandram served as the place for dispensing justice. In civil cases, the method of trial followed was to call upon the plaintiff to thrust his hand into a pot containing a cobra. If the cobra bit him, he was sentenced. That means he was punished. If the cobra did not bite him, he was considered as innocent person. He did not commit any mistake. The punishment was very severe in those times. Local administration. The entire kingdom was called Mandalam. How it was called? Mandalam. The Mandalam was divided into Nadus. So many Nadus. These Nadus are subdivided into Kurams. The Ur was the village. It was classified into Perur, that is village, big village. Sirur, a small village, and Mudur, that is old village. How they were dividing this depending on its population, size and antiquity. Pattinam was the name given to the coastal town, coastal areas, sea areas. Okay, how it was called Pattinam. And Pugar was the general term for harbour town. Where the harbour is there, that town is called Pugar. There are important towns are there. Which are they? They are Pugar, Urayur, Korkai, Madurai, Muziri, Vanji or Karur and Kanchi. The land was classified according to its fertility. The land form was divided into 5 Thinais. What are they? We know that already. We have studied in 3rd standard itself. What are they? Kurinji, Mullai, Marudam, Neidal and Palai. Marudam was called Menpulam. That is fertile land. We can do agriculture. It produced paddy and sugarcane. The rest of the landscape, excluding Neidal, which was called Vanpulam. What are they? Kurunji, Mullai and Palai. These are all called Vanpulam. Hard land. They produce only pulses and dried grains. Status of women in Sangam period. There was no restriction for women in social life. They can participate in the social life. It is up to their wish. There were learned and wise women. 40 women poets had lived and left behind their valuable works. Marriage was a matter of self-choice. It is their wish only. Sons and daughters had equal shares in their parents' property in those times. There were some famous women poets. Who are they? Avvayar, Velli Vidiyar, Kakai Padiniyar, Adimandiyar and Ponmudiyar. Now we study about the religious thoughts of the Sangam people. The primary deity of the Tamil was Seyon, that is Lord Murugan. The other gods also they worshipped. During the Sangam period, they were worshipping Sivan, Mayan. Mayan means Vishnu, Indiran, Varunan and Kotravai. They were also worshipping the hero stone, that is Natukal. Buddhism and Jainism also existed in that period. Let us see what is Veerakkal and Natukal. The ancient Tamils had a great respect for the heroes who died in the battlefield. That means in the war field, the heroes will die. Who are the heroes? The army people, those who lost their lives. These ancient people were giving them great respect. To remember these heroes only, they erected the stones. That stones only called Veerakkal or Natukal. Is it clear, children? Caste did not develop in the Tamilagam during this Sangam period. Dress and ornaments of Sangam people. The rich people wore muslin, silk and fine cotton garments, whereas the common people wore 2 pieces of clothes made of cotton. Both men and women wore a variety of ornaments. They were made of gold, silver, pearls, precious stones, etc. The people were fond of using aromatic perfumes. They were fond of using the perfumes. Then arts. There are many references to variety of musical instruments such as drum, flute and yal. Karikalan was master of 7 notes of music. He was called Elisai Valavan. Singing bards were called Panar and Vralier. Dancing was performed by Kannigayar. Kuthu, that is folk drama. It was the most important cultural practice of the people of Sangam age. They developed the concept of Muttamil, that is Iyal, Isai and Natakam. Now let us study about the occupation of the Sangam people. The major occupations of the people were agriculture, cattle rearing, fishing and hunting. Apart from this, carpenter, blacksmith, goldsmith and potters were also present. Weaving was the most common part-time occupation of the farmers and a regular full-time job of many other people. Festivals. People celebrated several festivals. The harvest festival, that is called Pongal, which we are celebrating now, that. And the festival of spring, Kartigai, were some of the festivals celebrated by the Sangam people. Indravila was celebrated in the capital. Next, trade. Trade existed at three levels. Which are they? Local level, overland and overseas. The chief ports had lighthouses which were called Kalangarailangu Sudar. Caravans of merchants carried their merchandise to different places in oxen-driven carts. Let us study about the Calabras. Towards the end of the 3rd century AD, the Sangam period slowly went into a decline. It was started declining. Following the Sangam period, the Calabras had occupied the Tamil country for about how many centuries? 2.5 centuries. We have very little information about these Calabras, children, because they didn't leave any artifacts or monuments. But there is evidence of their rule in literary text. The literary sources for this period, which are they? Navalar Charidai, Yapperungalam and Periyapranam. Sivaga Sindhamani and Kundalagesi also written during this Calabra period only. In Tamilagam, Jainism and Buddhism become prominent during this Calabras period. Introduction of Sanskrit and Prakrit language also resulted in the development of a new script called Vatteluthu. All this comes during this Calabra period only. Many works under Padinankil Kanakku were composed in this period. Trade and commerce also continued to flourish during this period. So, Calabra period is not a dark age. That's all in this lesson, children.